Stephanie Henry, good morning to you. Good morning to everyone. As I clear my throat. Okay, the province releasing its vaccine policy for healthcare and education workers, but falls short of mandating shots in these settings. Here's City News reporter Shauna Hunt.
We are preparing aggressively for the fall. I am sorry to say, I think it's going to be a difficult fall and winter.
Following the Labor Day weekend, doctors, nurses, paramedics, teachers, and ECEs are among the long list of workers who will be required to prove they're fully vaccinated or undergo regular rapid testing. Those who choose not to get the shot will also be required to complete an educational session on COVID-19. Dr. Moore says the unvaccinated would have to be tested at least once a week, but the frequency will reflect transmission rates.
Would escalate to up to twice or 3 times a week, depending on how Delta is spreading in the community.
Official opposition leader Andrea Horvath says today's announcement falls short.
No unvaccinated person should be providing health care to our most vulnerable. No unvaccinated person should be in a classroom with our kids.
While the Premier and Education Minister were MIA, Dr. Moore told reporters these directives came from his office and that the Ministry of Education is currently finalizing the policy for all school boards and other childcare settings. Dr. Moore said that mandating the COVID vaccine for students is something that is being talked about. At the very least, students could be required to report their status to public health to help keep track of vaccination rates in schools and communities.
And that was Shauna Hunt reporting from City News. Meantime, Ontario halting reopening plans, so sticking to Step 3 restrictions as the Delta variant continues to spread. The government previously said that most public health measures could be lifted after certain vaccine targets were met, but is now pausing that reopening. The province's chief medical officer of health saying current restrictions must remain to allow time for the new policies to take effect ahead of the fall months. Across the province, 74% of eligible Ontarians are now fully vaccinated. 82% have at least 1 dose. And now select Ontarians will soon be eligible for a 3rd dose. And that includes people living in high-risk group settings like nursing homes. It also includes transplant recipients, people being treated for blood-related cancers or on specific cancer drugs.
And a 3rd dose can provide an improved immune response for these individuals. But it's very focused and narrow in the eligibility criteria.
And coming up, we're going to hear from infectious diseases specialist Dr. Susie Hoda. She's first going to join us for You Sound Off. That's at 6:45, where you can ask your questions. And again, just after 7 o'clock, we're going to break down all of these announcements that came out of the province yesterday. Let's get to the federal election now. Vaccine mandates became a key issue that leaders tackled on day 3 on the campaign trail.
If anyone who doesn't have a legitimate medical reason for not getting fully vaccinated chooses to not get vaccinated, there will be consequences.
Liberal leader Justin Trudeau said if elected, their government will demand all federal public servants get a shot. He stopped short of saying what the consequences would be. Trudeau says isn't the only federal party leader calling for penalties for anyone who chooses not to get vaccinated.
I strongly believe in a mandatory vaccination. And what that looks like is going to be that we're going to say to work in a certain employment federally and federally regulated that you need to be vaccinated. Now, people have the choice not to get vaccinated, but there will be consequences for those choices.
Singh says if the NDP elected, unvaccinated federal employees who work in a public-facing role could be moved out of their job. Conservative Party leader Erin O'Toole isn't in favor of mandatory vaccinations, but is pitching a policy involving testing and public safety measures.
In some cases where we can use daily rapid testing, masking and all other measures, we need to bring people together, not divide. We need to get people vaccinated, but also have a plan in cases where they're not.
Green leader Annamie Paul says her party is seriously considering a vaccine mandate for federal public employees and is interested in seeing how the elected government will handle situations where people aren't vaccinated for religious or cultural reasons. Now, it'll be day 4 on the campaign trail. All federal leaders will be making some announcements today. Justin Trudeau will be out in BC. Conservative leader Erin O'Toole will be spending the day in Quebec. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh will also be in BC, and Green leader Annamie Paul in Toronto this afternoon. Well, this was interesting. Nova Scotia now going blue. The province's progressive Conservatives scoring an upset victory, winning a majority over the Liberals, knocking the party out of power after more than a decade. PC leader Tim Houston promising voters he would devote hundreds of millions to health care in the party's first year in power. Liberal leader and outgoing Premier Ian Rankin holding on to his seat in the Nova Scotia legislature. He says he's disappointed, but plans to stay on as the province's Liberal leader. All right, 6:10 is your time right now. Coming up next, we are expecting more high numbers when StatsCan releasing its inflation report today. And how will Canada's party leaders address these economic concerns? We'll break that all down with Mike Eppel. He's next.